being able to deal with all this pressure, being able to deal with change that you might recognize that, man, like you're outgrowing your business and there's a part of you that needs to change it and evolve it and adapt it, but your part of you won't let go. All of this is hard. And yet at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with you. Welcome back to another episode here inside of the Modern Man podcast. Today's topic is this shit is not easy. You see, like, before I became a father, I actually thought being a father would be easy. Like, I actually thought inside of my weird twisted mind that I would be able to hire a nanny, bring the nanny over, have the nanny cook, clean, look after Ocean, systemize my life to create more convenience so that I could kind of create order and get along with what I need to do in order to grow the business, in order to not be as affected by Ocean, to not have Kerry as affected by Ocean. And that was my thought process. My thought process prior to actually having a baby, being a father, was very, very different to what it is now. And I always thought, when I looked at people who complained about their children, they said, Lynn, you don't know what it's like to have kids. Wait till you have kids. Like, I was always brought up being told, like, wait until you experience what I experienced. And I don't know if you go through the same thing. Like, there are people that will tell you, wait until you get married and you'll see what it's like. Wait till you have a girlfriend and, you know, you're in a 5-year relationship and then see how bad it gets. Or wait until you finish university and then you start to see how bad it, whatever it is. It's just wait until you get to a point. And so I started to listen to these people, and I got to a point where I excelled so far beyond what everybody else around me was doing that I no longer had a blueprint. And I don't say this to brag, but I excelled beyond the blueprint that my parents had created for me. You see, the blueprint that my parents had created for me was, Lynn, go to Melbourne University. Lynn, go and become a physiotherapist. Lynn, go and find a girlfriend. Lynn, go and get a job. Lynn, go and buy a house. And not before long, I literally had bought the house, the inside of the neighborhood that I lived in, that everyone was like, oh my God, that is the house. And I bought it. And I bought it because I remember distinctly in 2016, Kerry and I just bought our first house. And then within a year, we bought our second house. And the reasons why I bought it was because by the time we bought our first house, it was a nice 3-bedroom house. I think it was about $1.5 million. I was like, it was our very first home. It was a really nice first home. And I got to that point in my life and I was like, well, this is kind of okay. Like, I'm great. Like, I wanted a new challenge. And I remember calling up my sister and I was like, hey, like, there's a house 3 doors down that's for sale, and it's the big house. It's kind of like the mansion in Northgate that everyone's like, wow, this is an amazing house. And kind of called up my sister and I'm like, hey, like, I'm gonna buy this house. And she's like, well, what do you mean? Well, I'm like, well, I put in an offer for 3.53 million. I saw it with Kerry. She likes it. I kind of think it's pretty cool. I kind of like the status at the time. In 2016, I remember I'm trying to stay status. And as I reflect back to Maslow's hierarchy of human needs, he starts to go, well, you know, we need to survive first, and then we start to look for status, and then when we have status, we begin to look for freedom. We're in a search for freedom, and then after we got freedom, we're in a search for purpose and enlightenment and all of that stuff. And so it's starting to all make sense. And why I'm bringing you back here on this journey is because the point is, I had broken the blueprint of what my parents actually had created. Like, inside of their world, they're like, well, you know, if Lynn can have a stable job, he can have a family income, then that's it. Like, he's going to be locked down. We know that he's going to be safe. He's going to be locked down for the next 30 years. He'll have a mortgage to pay off for 30 years, and he's not going to go anywhere. And I can see it from my parents' perspective, because they're like, as long as he's safe, like, that's all they want. The survival of their children, the safety of their children. What better way to create safety than to lock yourself down to a mortgage, having to pay that mortgage off, not traveling anywhere, maybe traveling once a year for 2 weeks and then coming back down and creating safety and consistency. And so I'd broken past that. And then I became a father. And then a side of me in being a father would change my paradigm. like Ocean's done something for my heart. It's like, as a kid growing up, I had so much to prove, being the youngest of 6 children, being Vietnamese. Like, it's crazy. Like, there's Asian stereotypes for a reason, because you kind of have to sit in your room, and Asians want to learn and study, and that's the stereotype. Stereotypes exist for a reason, because the majority of Asians see opportunity. They think that being a doctor, being a dentist, being a lawyer is gonna like make their life better. I don't know why right now, because I know plenty of dentists that are completely miserable, plenty of doctors that are completely miserable. And so I really sit back and I go, having Ocean, like growing up, I had this big shell around just trying to prove myself, just trying to prove that I'm good enough to people. And so as a boy, I didn't know how to have fun. As a 7-8-year-old boy, like, the only fun I had was playing chess, and that was really fun. But then by the time I got to 13, 14, I started to learn music, and I started to play the drums, and I couldn't play the drums because by the time you're 13, 14, 15, you're studying to get into college, university, and I need to focus on getting a high enter score. So where does that bring me right now? And, being a father, and my sole purpose of being a father with O is really just to connect with her. That's what I want. Prior to being a father, I would have systemized her. I would have got a nanny over. I would have been like, oh, this little human being can, be efficient and wrap around. But there's just something about being a father where you look into the eyes of your child. And if you're a father, you'll know that it's the greatest blessing. And if you allow yourself to lean in and connect with your baby, it's the most beautiful thing, and you get to become a child again. You start to recognize that, maybe everyone else's story fucked up your life, and you don't want to bring and bring that story onto the baby that you're about to bring out, because she thinks you're God. And so there's this connection that I have with Ocean. I can't explain it. It's inexplainable. It's unconditional love. It's love that I would die for her. And I think about Kerry and I think about how much, like, it's a different love, but it's just more. It's fierce, and it's ridiculous. And part of this podcast today is talking about life in general, and talking about that it is hard. It is hard to be a fucking great father, a present one, a one that actually cares and focuses and pays attention to your child. It's hard being in a relationship with a partner where you get married and you have connection through the child, but you haven't figured out how to connect to each other, because sex after a child is different to sex before a child, and you've got a lot of issues that you've got to work through. Like, there are real issues that you've got to work through as a man, and figuring out how you can support your partner because her body's changed. How she feels about her body's changed. Her vagina's changed. God damn, like, if I had known, like, a woman's vagina going through that experience changes. And you don't realize that, and it's just being okay. It's being there, not being surprised, and listening. Not giving your opinion, just simply listening and being there as a support person. And then figuring out how to reconnect and find each other and be romantic and connect. That's fucking hard. But all that shit comes with effort. It doesn't come with just time. Time doesn't make it better. Time is not the most valuable asset. Your most valuable asset with me is, inside of our life, is energy. It's the amount of effort that we put into things, the effort that I put into Ocean, the effort that I put into my business, the effort that I put into my relationships with the people inside of business, the effort that I put into my clients, the efforts that I put in with Kerry. So when I started to realize that effort is the most important currency, and effort comes from energy, then time was my most important currency. I thought money was, and then time was, because I used money to buy back time. And then I started to realize, I had so much time, why is it taking so long? Well, it's because I'm not putting in effort. And so if you're struggling to build a business and maintain and grow it and possibly have a good one, and you're struggling to find that balance inside of your life, and you feel overwhelmed, understand that it is hard. And understand that there's one differentiating factor between where you might be today, struggling with business, struggling with your baby, struggling with trying to find intimacy, sex, connection. Like me, I struggled to actually find connection for the first 6 months with Kerry, just to touch her and feel her and figure out whether or not having sex with her would be okay, and asking for it, like all of these things. And all of these things, navigating through these things, struggling with, taxes and payroll and expenses and shit when COVID-19's coming at you and the business isn't growing. Being able to deal with all this pressure, being able to deal with change that you might recognize that, man, like you're outgrowing your business and there's a part of you that needs to change it and evolve it and adapt it, but your part of you won't let go. All of this is hard. And yet at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with you. Nobody's got the blueprint out there. Nobody's got the perfect blueprint. Everyone can show you the perfect life, but understand that the perfect blueprint is you navigating what you want. The question that I always come back to is, what the fuck do you want? Not what do other people have, not what looks cool, not what looks popular, but actually sitting down and actually going, what do you want? It's a question that I wasn't conditioned to think about when I was young. It's a question that I've forgotten for a very long time. I haven't been trained on, but it's a question over the last 2 years I've been asking myself, what do I want? 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 Now ask yourself the question, what do you want? It's a fucking hard question to answer. You'll sit there, if you've never done this before, you'll sit there and go, I don't fucking know. I want what Lynn has. So his life looks pretty cool. He's got this nice little black drop here. It's got some lights, got a nice SLR camera over here. I want what he's got a pretty cool wife. She's pretty hot. The question is, what do you want? What's going to make you happy? What's going to make you fulfilled so that you can stick inside of your own lane? Because what you start to realize, if you try to play my game, you'll lose. You'll lose, you'll hate it. I try to play so many other people's games. I played my parents' games. Growing up being a physiotherapist, I was driving to work and I'm like, why do I hate this? And everyone around me is telling me that, oh my God, you have an amazing job. You get to help people. Oh, you can open up your own a therapy center one day and actually do all this stuff. And there's so much significance. And I thought, oh my God, yeah, everyone else is telling me it's awesome. So why do I not feel awesome? Why do I hate it? Why do I feel constricted? Why do I want to go back into the gym and just train people? But I don't really want to train a lot of people. I just want to train 3 people, 2 people, maybe just 1. Maybe I'd rock up for 1 client, train them and train myself. And so I started to ask myself questions. What do I want? What do I want in my marriage? What do I want in my business? What do I want inside of my employees? How do I want them to show up? What's the culture I want to create? What type of clients do I want? What kind of legacy do I want to build? What experiences do I want? And what happens is when we grow up, we lose sight of what we actually wanted as a kid. It's crazy. All I wanted to do as a kid was just play tennis with my brother. All I wanted to do was just play team sports. If I could just play basketball with, after school with all my friends at school, that's the most, for 3 hours. That's all I wanted to do. And yet coming back to the simple things, we say we can't. Consider that you're in charge of your life now. You're now the adult. And you have an opportunity to let that adult hat go and start to live. Or you can still be stuck in the paradigm of how this should be because that's how you were brought up, and now you want to put these conditions on yourself, and then you're going to put them on your children. The question is, brother, shit's hard. My question to you is, what do you want? Because if you go out and create what it is that you want, you'll be happy. And at the end of the day, that's the only fucking thing that matters, is that you're happy, you're fulfilled, and you grow in life to be a better version of yourself, to be a more aware version, to contribute more, hopefully, if you want to. If not, then fucking that's great too. But just so that you're fulfilled, so that you can be the light for others, of your wife, your children, so that you don't go through depression and take out your triggers on your wife, your kids. You don't actually suppress them with your own bullshit stories that you got from your parents, the stories that I got from my parents. So that we actually free them from these stories and we let them live so that they can be who they want to be. And that's the most important thing. That's all I got for you today. The question is, what do you want?